Okay then, Nigel, there's nobody else waiting in the waiting room at the moment, so we're almost ready to go. I'm just going to collapse this down. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We're really pleased to welcome Nigel Francis from Iris Payroll Professional to deliver today what the Iris PP, formerly STAR, roadmap is going to be. He's going to cover lots of things. There will be some Q&A sessions in the middle, so Nigel's going to break up the presentation with some Q&A opportunities. And if you want to submit any questions, please do put them in the chat box and I'll try and pick them up as best as I can. If we can't, we will pick them up at the end and probably produce a Q&A answer sheet that we can then share on the PBA. So without further ado, I shall hand you over to Nigel.
Thanks, Tracy, and good morning, everybody. Firstly, thanks very much for inviting me to speak to you all today about our plans for IPP and where we see Bureau Payroll heading. It's great to be here. I know probably I've spoken to lots of people on the call at various times in the past. I should just introduce myself if you don't know me. I joined STAR as it was 5 years ago, in fact, coming up for 6 years actually, and had worked with them prior to the acquisition before of Iris. My role now has changed since we've joined the Iris family, and I'm looking after Bureau payroll products. So IPP STAR sits under me as a product director. And I work with a product team looking at the strategy for our products going forward. So I look after STAR, I look after FMP Payrite as well, which I was just talking to Tracy about, is a sort of a larger scale Bureau payroll product that sits in the enterprise space and can manage payrolls up to sort of 30,000 employees. So we have these range of products in Iris, and IPP is very much targeted towards the Bureau marketplace. So that's my role. I look after that product. I work with a product team, and it's about integrating the Iris products and making sure that our customers are using the right product to actually satisfy their clients and the needs that they have. Now, I'm joined today by Warda Munir from my team, who's just joined us recently in Iris as a product lead for IPP, and she's going to be a really important contact for you going forwards. I was hoping also to be joined by Claire Treadwell, who's a fellow product lead for payroll. Claire looks after the commercial payroll products. Unfortunately, Claire had a COVID jab just recently and she's feeling pretty ropey today, so she's not going to be joining us. But just to cover off agenda, I'm always quite keen just to sort of give you some signposting of what I'm going to cover this morning. What I first of all wanted to do was start with what we're doing now and why. Take you through the roadmap that we've set for Iris Payroll Professional over the next 2 years and beyond. I think it's really important so you can see what we're planning to do. What I'd also like to do is take the opportunity to bring you up to speed with what we've been working on with Virtual Payroll Assistant, which is a new sort of automation and task management module. We've been working on it for 18 months. It's out with customers now. And I think that's quite an important thing from a bureau point of view to understand what that product does. So, and I understand there's going to be lots of questions that I'm going to throw out there with you. So hopefully we can pause. You're going to get rather fed up with me speaking. So we'll take some opportunities to take some questions and perhaps at the end as well. So hopefully that sets out what we're going to do. I found this picture online. I thought it was quite a good opportunity, actually. It's a good opportunity really today for me to be able to answer those questions that have no doubt been circulating in your heads about what's going on with IPP, where are we going? So I thought the elephant in the room was quite a good analogy. And I think really think about me as the myth buster today, because I can explain exactly where we're going and what we're doing. So I think the first thing to understand is that we are investing significantly in Iris Payroll Professional. We don't see the product going anywhere. There is an evolution of what's happening with that product towards next generation payroll products. So we're investing both in IPP as it is now and what we see as the future payroll marketplace with our new generation plus payroll products. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about those as we go through this. I think the key thing here is there are a number of shared technologies that we'll start to see emerging that are going to be used both by Iris Payroll Professional and the suite of products that it uses. So, for example, myePayWindow and Virtual Payroll Assistant, shared APIs that will then start to be used within the new generation products. So I guess the question that actually leaves with you is, well, what does that mean? Well, I think what I'd like to reiterate for you is that we're not going to force you to have to make a decision between desktop or cloud. We're investing in both, and we want there to be a logical pathway for you to move towards the future. So I don't think it is a question between desktop or cloud. You can have both. And the point of what we're doing is to make it so that you can decide when is the right time to do that, and that there is a pathway that you can see to move forwards with. I think in terms of where we're heading, the cloud is where we are going with the products. As I say, we're not going to force you to make that decision because we're going to continue with IPP as it is. But what we're going to do is start using these shared technologies, and those shared technologies will be cloud technologies, and all of our existing products will start to use those, and they'll be hosted in what's known as Iris Elements. Now, you may or may not have heard of Iris Elements. It's an ecosystem of apps that are evolving. We launched a big update with it last week to the accountancy world, but it's a really a set of applications that share data using cloud technologies, and we see both HR and payroll moving towards this single unified user experience in Elements. So there is a direction of travel, and we're working on in terms of our next generation HR and payroll products, some new business, the Iris Business and Bureau suite, which is evolving, as I've said already, in parallel with what we're doing on IPP. And the plan will be is these shared services you'll be able to actually take advantage of either through products like myePayWindow and Virtual Payroll Assistant, but ultimately perhaps even in IPP, and as they evolve towards a single solution in the cloud. So you can see here we're looking at the integration of much more than just payroll. It is really moving towards the whole HR services, and you'll be able to pick the level of HR services that are appropriate for each client that you're working with. Now, we're starting to map out some of this already. We've been doing some envisioning workshops and design sprints with clients, and we'll continue to do these as this next generation of products evolve. But some of the functionality you see here will start to come over into products like myePayWindow using these shared APIs that we're building in the cloud. So there's a lot happening, but we don't want you to force you to have to move to this. This isn't ready, this is where we're going, but some of it is evolving over time. And we've invested in a product called Staffology. This happened in January of this year. That's an API-driven payroll solution, and it's being worked on at the moment and will form the basis of our plans for cloud payroll. So there'll be more of that coming as we evolve that over the coming months. Any questions at that point before I head into the specifics of the IPP roadmap? No? Okay. So let's just take a look at what we plan to do on current IPP product. There are a number of things that we looked at when we set out to devised the roadmap back in last year, and really what we wanted to do was tackle immediate priorities that customers had in terms of processing. So how can we make them more efficient? What can we do to stop them missing certain things in the processing cycles? Secondly, how do we help you as businesses accelerate the growth of your own organizations? And thirdly, in the longer term, really, what can we do to help you open up new opportunities? So they were the sort of the three key elements we looked at. In terms of the roadmap, we broke it into really now, which is those processing priorities. What can we do in the next 12 months that can really make a difference? Secondly, the growth accelerators I just alluded to. And then thirdly, how do we help you open new opportunities? Now, I've split this into 3 areas here for the products that make up the core of the IPP solution. So you have in the top row here IPP, which is the desktop payroll engine. In the middle is our new automation and task management module, which is called VPA. It stands for Virtual Payroll Assistant. I'm going to spend some time taking you through that in a moment, so you can understand what that is and why we think that's so important. And then finally at the bottom is myePayWindow, which is really the engagement and self-service platform that allows you to deliver information to your customers. So these 3 things are absolutely critical, we believe, to deliver a modern payroll service, and you can't really do it without all 3. So what we're looking to do in IPP, in the short term or in the next 12 months, we wanted to just focus on some tweaks to the product to make sure that you don't miss things, and making it clearer that an FPS or an EPS needs to be sent, that you don't miss that a pay component is pensionable. Some things like that we've seen as some of our customers have changed, particularly over the pandemic, in terms of the type of people running payroll. It's moved from being just payroll specialists to having apprentices, people who don't have the length and breadth of experience in payroll that traditionally has always been there. And some of the questions we've had back from customers has been, well, I would expect the application to prompt me to do things, not expect me to know what to do. So we want to address some of those things. We want to look at performance as well. A number of our larger clients have come back to us and said, look, we're getting larger client payrolls to process. We'd like the application to run faster. So we're going to take a look at that. And of course, we can't get away from legislation, can we? That's what payroll is. So that takes up a big amount of our time. So in the short term, there are some feature changes on IPP. We can explain those more to you. In the next phase, and when I say that's 12 months on, what we're looking to do is add some gaps in functionality that have been there for a long while. So we do want to address occupational absence and put that into the product. We've planned to do that for a while, but we're definitely going to be starting to look at that. In green, there are 2 integrations that we're wanting to do. We have integration with IPP already with Iris Payroll Professional. As you've seen from where we see the future heading, we see the integration of HR features into payroll as something that is going to increasingly start to dominate. And we are working on this centralized API functionality that will allow payroll to integrate much more seamlessly with HR. And it's about really timing of when things happen, when are the cutoff dates, and managing that directly with an intelligent API. Now, centralized teams in Iris are building this API, and all of our payroll products are going to be able to consume it. So it's in green because it might move forward from this sort of next phase, which is, for me, is within the next 12 to 24 months, but I'm hoping that we can bring that forward. The other item there, FP payments, is faster payments. We know a lot of our customers are BACS approved bureaus, but a lot aren't. And to be able to take advantage of faster payments is something that can get you a lot of time back in processing, a couple of days back at least. And we want to build an integration with an API with a company called Modular, who we're working with. And again, that's something else that I'm hoping we can bring forwards. Another look, I'm on the top row, by the way, at performance again, and there are some features we want to improve in our multiple posts and pay spines functionality that we'd like to do. Much longer term on IPP, we do see GP and NHS payroll as being something that is on our target list. Iris does have a dedicated GP payroll product, but it's not really suited to the bureau marketplace. It's really a single instance for a GP practice. IPP itself will do NHS payroll in England, but it's not really able to cope with Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales very well. So there's work we need to do, but it's something that's on our radar for the future. So if I take you onto the middle row, VPA, I'm going to explain what this is about. VPA is Virtual Payroll Assistant. Right now, VPA is available. It's an automation and task management solution. So those of you who know IPP Star well will know we had a product called BMS. VPA is BMS on steroids. It is able to do full automation for certain payrolls at the moment, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But it's also task management, because not everything we believe is going to be automated. Payroll is complicated and it needs skilled professionals to run it. Our plan at the moment is to extend VPA's ability to do a tax and NI calculation automated to be able to deduct student loan and pension, AEOs and CARs, and also to be able to dispatch a simple payroll run report to myePayWindow for a customer without you having to touch it at all. So right now it will do director-only payrolls. We've got some customers who are processing hundreds of director-only payrolls every period without having to touch it. So it does that now, but it doesn't do deductions. So that's the next stage, and we're hoping that that will happen by the end of this year, if not sooner. We're working on it at this moment. In the next phase on VPA, we want to look at, in line with integrations with things like payments, is automating the payments, providing KPI dashboards on those payroll teams and which clients are actually always late in providing you information, which teams are working and able to manage all of their work on time. This isn't just about automation as well, these director-only type payrolls. This is about all the payrolls and being able to manage your workload. So it's a KPI dashboard on your team and how they're processing payrolls for all of your customers. Diary and key dates. This is, well, VPA understands all of the processing steps for every customer. It knows when the client cutoff dates are. So why can't we publish this information to myePayWindow? So when the customers log on to myePayWindow, the employer, they see their cutoff dates and they're prompted to do things by certain times. And we're going to extend that to allowing them to enter data via myePayWindow for timesheet information, starters, leavers, and bring that down to payroll at the allotted time. So a lot going on that whole VPA piece. In the future, we'd like to get to replicating or re-envisioning the billing side of the BMS application that we'd written. But that's very much, I think, a 24-month thing. But then we can automate bill production. So for those customers that you are automating, that all of that information can get delivered out to them as well as a bill. If I just cover off on the bottom line on VPA, right now we're looking at improving some of the approval process that VPA is able to do. If you're using VPA now and you want a customer to approve a payroll, it will send a notification to them in myePayWindow. They can go in and approve it or reject it with a reason, and that's there right now. What it's not doing is sending them a link to the report that you want them to approve. So there's a little update we need to do there in making that approval process much more intuitive for a customer. There's a new user experience for myePayWindow planned, which is based on the new UI of Virtual Payroll Assistant. So that's the way the application looks. It behaves much more like an application rather than a website. And some things that I think perhaps some of you will have asked us for over the last year or so, which is, can an employer with multiple PAYE schemes see all of them through one login in myePayWindow? And we want to make that possible. And equally, if an employee has multiple employments, that they can see all of their pay information under one login in myePayWindow. So some work going on to make sure that happens this year. The item at the bottom is an interesting one as well. We're working on this project right now. It's proof of concept has been done, and hopefully we'll be getting some progress on this I think within the next 6 months at least, for everybody, and that's single sign-on integration. So we have certain very large organizations who have their own portals, and they want employees and employers to be able to sign into those portals and then see directly their payslip in myePayWindow. And we're working with a identity technology, it's called Okta, that myePayWindow is going to start to use, and hopefully we can roll out this ability to do single sign-on, and for some of your larger clients that might be very interesting for them. So hopefully you can see there's a lot that we're doing on the products. Again, for future, there's elements integration you can see on myePayWindow. There's the automation production that I talked about. I think we've set that roadmap. As I say, this starts now is the next 12 months. Next is 24 months, and the future is 24 plus. There's some opportunities to change that, and we'd really like your input. I know we've done some work already with you, with Danielle Simpson in my team on myePayWindow, but I'd like to offer that out to you again, that we do a similar thing on the IPP product and also with VPA. And Warder, who I mentioned, who's just recently joined our team, is going to be the contact point to take that further, of course, with my help. So hopefully after today, we can organize that and set up some sessions for a later time. So I'm going to pause again there. Are there any questions from any of that people would like to raise?
Hi, Nigel. We've got one in. Basically, are you or is Iris going to be looking to add client approvals via myePayWindow, or do you have to have VPA in order to get that functionality?
You would have to have VPA to get that functionality, because it is VPA that has that processing step for that customer in its automation and processing setup. So without that, there isn't that concept. We have got some plans as well to look at instant messaging within myePayWindow. That's a subject that Danielle is looking at the moment, how we could get a chat bot instigated within the product so that you can actually start a two-way conversation with a customer. So there's something we're looking at in that area as well. But in terms of the specific approval, we see it as being something that VPA will drive.
Thanks very much. If anybody wishes to unmute themselves to ask Nigel a question at this point, please do. Obviously, it's going to be a bit difficult if everybody goes at once, but we can certainly give it a go.
Yeah. I must stunned everybody into silence.
So what's the likely cost then for VPA, Nigel, just as a question?
It's based on the number of payrolls that you're processing. So it's on or off for the number of payrolls that you're processing. And the reason why it's on all of them is that VPA isn't just about the automated bit. It's about the overall processing, because it's providing that task support like the BMS solution did. So it's priced on a sort of pounds per payroll. And it's at that kind of level, but certainly if you speak to your account managers, they can give you those cost estimates on it. I know when we looked at introducing auto enrollment, that was priced at about a third of an uplift cost on your per payroll processing. VPA is about a 50% uplift because of the actual productivity benefits that it brings.
Okay, and what's been the uptake so far? I mean, you mentioned it was just one director of payrolls at the moment. There'll be many bureaus here which don't have many of those on their books.
Yeah.
So what's it looking like for the scope?
As I said before, well, can I pick up that bit? Let's go into the solution, and I can perhaps now, as I'm 20 minutes or so in, I think. Where am I at? Let's have a look. 25 minutes. So let me do 10 minutes now on the solution that we see with IPP and VPA, and I can pick some questions off as we go there. But we've been with early adopters on VPA since May of last year. The product became available in November. We've got a number of them using it. They're saving a lot of time, both on director onlys and on their standard payroll processing. So let me explain it, and hopefully you'll get some better insight from that. And I'm very happy to take, as you say, some more questions after then. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's great.
So when we talk about IPP, if we're talking to a new customer at the moment, we say that really there are three core pillars to a payroll service delivery. A core payroll processing engine, which is Payroll Professional as we know and love it. And I like to think of Payroll Professional as a bit of a Swiss Army knife. It doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of things pretty well, from commercial through to education through to expat. You've got the tools within the product and a good pedigree of processing in that core engine. VPA has come in as a new member of the family for automation and work oversight, and it's not just about automation. Sorry, my dog's going crazy. I'm just going to shut the window outside. It's a wirehead Dachshund. If any of anybody know those, they have minds of their own, and they won't know to be quiet. Anyway, so automation and work oversight on the middle level, and of course at the top end you've got to deliver information to your clients, and that's where myePayWindow fits in. So these are the three elements of the solution. As you'll know, Payroll Professional is desktop software. We've got a lot of customers who are putting this into a private cloud, so it will run on either, and Iris can provide that if you need it. VPA sits alongside Payroll Professional, so on your infrastructure, or if you've moved it all to the cloud, it goes to that hosted environment. And finally, then you've got myePayWindow, which is cloud at the moment, which your customers, their employees go to get their payroll information. And of course, these three things talk to one another seamlessly through each payroll cycle. So let's talk more about VPA. What is it about? Well, it's not just about those automation aspects. We see automation. A lot of people talk about automation and they say payroll is going to be set and forget. I think I have a phrase which is yes, right. When might that be then? So it is an aspiration one day that perhaps you don't need somebody to do it, but it's very complex, as we all know. And the chances of being able to automate everything is pretty minimal. However, automation support across all your payrolls is something that we want to deliver. And therefore you need task management. You need to understand where you are in the processing across all your clients. Some of them, yes, may be fully automated, but the rest of them will be supported by automation, and you need to understand who's got what and what to worry about. So hopefully this little diagram, apologies to those of you who've seen it before, will explain how the three elements of the component of the solution in IPP work together. So top right, we have VPA. It's actually a web application. You go into it and you set up, rather like the BMS product that we had, client groups. And a client group is a group of customers who are processed in a similar way. So if I talk about those director-only payrolls, the very simple ones, it's paid last day of the month, director-onlys. Or you could have a no-change payroll that's paid on the last Thursday. So payday is usually the thing that brings them together, and the level of complexity in those customers, whether they're change or no-change payrolls. So what you can do is in VPAs, you can set up these client groups. You can apply a processing template to them and say, start processing them. And what happens is steps in that processing template either get processed automatically without you having to deal with them, or they get dispatched to the desktop product where a member of the team will do a processing activity. We talked about the approval and the question that came through. An approval can go out to myePayWindow. Information comes back. That may result in more tasks being made available to a payroll operative to deal with, or it just allows things to be processed. And then VPA is updated and dashboard charts show you exactly where you are in your processing and what you need to worry about. Now, our plan at the moment is that we're able to automate in a certain amount of things, but over time we're increasing that level of automation so that ultimately most of the work that you're doing will happen automatically, and you'll just be dealing with those things by exception. So hopefully that explains how these three components work together. So some of the goals we had when we were looking at this, firstly, is it's not just about the automation bit. I know I keep repeating this. You've got those simple payrolls. The light blue in the bottom right-hand corner are those things that just happen automatically. But as you get more complicated with more complex customers, you have those darker blue or darker purple areas where you have to get in and do work as a payroll operative. And as soon as you do those, the templates understand, because they're intelligent templates, what can happen next, and they'll automatically do it, or they'll allow the next manual process to happen. So this sort of optimized step and task processing is a key feature of VPA. They're intelligent, and you can decide what is in the payroll template, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. And as I've said, it's about task management, that oversight piece, understanding who's got what work. So here you just see some dashboard charts. I'm going to show you these in a bit more detail. You can understand who's got what work, what's red, what's overdue. Somebody wants to take some time off in the afternoon or the day off on Thursday. Can I reassign that work to somebody else in the team and not worry that things are being overlooked? And this is for the automation and for the manual processing. And because this is proper automation, things happen when they can happen, and that can be any time of the day. So this processing can happen overnight. So that concept of work while you sleep is really a possibility. This isn't batch processing. This is proper automation. So that's what VPA is. That's the proposition that it offers. A little bit more on these templates. Basically, a processing template that you assign to a client group has got different types of steps in it. It's got those that you don't need to worry about. We provide them, so we can open a run, we can initialize a run, we can, for a director-only payroll, we can create an FPS, we can send an FPS, we can do a backup at the end of the period, and we can open the next period. We've provided those. You can just use them and it will work. What you have then are other things that we haven't yet automated yet, or maybe they're not going to be automated, is that you can have manual steps, and those manual steps need to be executed by somebody in the payroll application. And you can add these into a template. You can change the order of them, and you can customize the templates to work the way you want. And then you have this type of an approval step, and an approval step can go out to a customer in myePayWindow. They have to put a reason in for approval, for rejection and for acceptance, and that information goes back and is visible to you, the reasons in VPA. Or you can put a checking step in as a type of manual step, really, but it's something like one of the team checks somebody else's work, and I know a lot of our clients do have that sort of audited approach in the way they set up. So these are the steps, and they exist in this processing template. Now our goal is to make as much of that template as orange as possible. And that's what we're working on in the roadmap for this year, is to increase the number of orange steps in that processing template. But until such time, you can have manual templates and you've got full oversight and control of where you are on each step of processing across all of your customers.
Okay, thanks,
Hopefully
Nigel.
that makes sense. Questions? Yeah.
No, that's really good. I got the odd question. So if a bureau currently uses BMS, does it take the data from BMS, or do you have to rebuild it in the new system?
Unfortunately, it's different. So you can't take the data from BMS. We do have a little user story to take BMS notes, and we're going to present those in the desktop application in IPP. So if you use the BMS notes, but unfortunately the templates, they're so radically different. There are some major differences. If people, I'll include a slide in the deck actually that show the differences between BMS and VPA. BMS didn't have what's called inheritance in the template. So if you change a template, and let's say you've got 100 clients in BMS using it, you have to go in to each one of those 100 clients and reassign a new template. With VPA, you can change the template and it will, at the next processing, the next period, apply to all of those 100 clients without you having to do it. So to allow us to do that, we've had to completely rebuild it. So it is something completely different. Okay.
So will BMS continue to be supported by Iris, or will it be phased out?
We have no plans to discontinue it. So we're continuing to support it, but we're not developing it. Because we see really VPA has already got increased functionality over and above BMS in the workflow area, in terms of pure workflow management, plus it's got the automation and the improved dashboards. So it's already ahead of BMS, and it just wouldn't make any sense to continue that. Okay, is there a time frame on that for bureaus who are using it? It's we're not planning to end of life it, so it's certainly going to be there for the next couple of years at the very least. Okay, that's great. And what tasks can actually be automated as we speak on VPA? So now, if somebody was going to use it now, what can you automate? For the director onlys, you can see in here actually it will open a run, initialize a run, it will do a DPS check, so it'll do a tax code check automatically. If there isn't any tax code changes for a director only payroll, it will continue to calculate. It'll do a tax and NI calc. It will send payslips to myePayWindow, and it will create and send an FPS. It will do a backup, and it will close a period. Okay, fab. And just sort of going back to a couple of other questions which isn't to do with VPA, if I may. You mentioned some clients or some bureaus are putting IPP in the cloud. I know as a bureau ourselves, we've been in the cloud for 8 years. But can you explain to the people here today what you mean by that? As in, is it going to be hosted by Iris? Can they put it on their own cloud systems? What do you mean? We would love to do it for you. So we've got a hosting service, so the account management team can help you understand how Iris can provide that service for you. But you can do it yourself as well. So it is what I would call a lift and shift to the cloud, and that's effectively what you're doing. You're moving your infrastructure from your own servers to some hosted servers that are in the cloud, and getting the resilience and the benefit of having them accessible and managed by somebody else.
Okay, that's
Does that
great.
answer the question?
I think so, yes. I mean, we're thinking of moving. Ours is currently on remote desktop hosted by our IT providers, and we're going to be moving to Microsoft Azure. Do you see any problem with people doing that?
No, I think Iris's own hosting teams are moving to Azure with their hosting provision. So yeah, there are some aspects where you just got to make sure that we would suggest when you're hosting that you have your shared data files in SQL. Not all necessarily your client data files, they can stay as MCP files, but your shared databases. So for those of you down in the details with IPP, that's the T2 data and P2 admin databases are actually converted to SQL. And you need to have that for things like VPA as well. It's much better performance that way. But they need to be co-located on the same server as well, because you can get latency issues in the cloud.
Okay, that's great. And then just going back to VPA again. Sorry, Nigel, to make you switch backwards and forwards. Is it synced with myePayWindow at the moment? So when you run a payroll, is the outbox automatically uploaded to myePayWindow?
There is a step that we're doing at the moment where there is an empty outbox step in one of these processing templates that will empty the outbox for you. So you can have an automation step. In fact, we haven't quite done that yet. There is one on the director only payroll that is there, but we're making that available on all payrolls in a release just in the summertime. So basically what it can do is it will allow for your non-automated, so the non-director only payrolls, you could have a step where it will just automatically empty the outbox for you.
Okay, fabulous. Does anybody have any other questions at this point? If you do, put your hand up in the chat box and I'll see if I can grab you. Right, Gary Parsons, if you could unmute yourself, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. Hi, Nigel. Thanks for coming on and talking to us. It's a long time no speak.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah.
Good. I think it's great to have things like this to start with, just because I make no secret of it. We've been quite disengaged with IPP over the last year because minor issues here and there that have just accumulated into one. So it's great to see the roadmap, and thanks for somebody that mentioned it to me yesterday that this was happening, because I didn't spot it. So but yeah, that's not my question, but I just wanted to say thank you, because I think when you feel a little bit disengaged, this is really helpful, so I appreciate that. My question was just around billing. Apologies, it goes back to the slide a few slides ago. It's a real problem for us, and I imagine for everybody, in terms of billing. BMS has never really been able to do it. So we are very much using BMS to manage tasks, make sure that that we're catching clients that are overdue, etc. But the billing just doesn't work for us. It's quite a time-consuming task. Is there a reason why that was quite low down on your list? It wasn't really mentioned to me.
I think the reason we put it fairly low down on the list is that, one, there's not a lot of customers using it, and secondly, I think it's the bigger fish to fry conundrum, in that we see the bigger prize in terms of dealing with the automation and increasing that automation and improving the task management over and above the billing side. A lot of people have different options for billing, different ways of doing it, and so that was really the main reason. Really, it was it's one of drive really from customers. Okay,
so if I can change that, then would you listen to it if I could get a few words to tell you that that's not what we're thinking?
I think it always helps. Yeah, the more customers that are actually pushing for something, then clearly we've got to listen and make sure we're doing what you're asking for.
Okay.
I mean, the interesting thing with billing is that it's completely detached from the intricacies of the payroll engine itself. It's taking numbers, if you like, from a processing period and then converting them into a bill. So it is less of a, in payroll terms, it's much less of a challenge, I think, than some of the other technicalities that we're facing.
Yeah. Okay. I'll work on that and come back to you then.
Yeah,
There's a few of us that,
yeah,
it's a real annoyance, and the amount of time that and resource that we have to put into collating the data and producing invoices. If anyone's currently doing that via BMS, great. We don't seem to be having a look with our account manager. If you ever consider going back to just being star, that would be amazing.
I have quite a few more grey hairs on my head than I had before the account manager changes, let me tell you. So my apologies in advance. I think hopefully we're getting better at it now, but there's been a big change in that sales organisation, which hasn't necessarily been for the better, I think, but it will get better.
You an email. I'll drop you another email. Yeah, apologies, I might have created a few grey hairs, but yeah, thank you. I'll not take any more time, but thanks, appreciate it.
Tracy, I can do some screenshots just quickly. I'm just conscious that we're at 45 minutes. Would people like just to see what VPA looks like?
Please, yes, that'd be lovely.
Okay. So let me just give you a heads up into how it works. You'll be familiar with your logons to myePayWindow, and for your own team, you have them listed in the administration area. You can see we've added, if you have VPA, a VPA role setup whereby each of your users can be defined as a department admin, a supervisor, or an operator. Now, the difference between those three levels are really about what you can cancel or stop for a customer. So the department admin can get rid of a group of clients, can stop processing, whereas a VPA operator is unable to do that. Clearly, they don't have the authority to do it. So there are some permissions in there as to what those individuals can do based on the role that they've got. So when you log into VPA, you log in with your username and password that you've got for myePayWindow, and you have a role. And when you come in, the first thing you see is on the left hand side is a menu that has some does what it says on the tin descriptions on it. There's a dashboard, which is what's in the central area of the screen, and on the left hand side you can see it says groups, teams, clients, a month view, progress, process progress, step progress. And pretty much it does what it says on the tin. So just let me explain the dashboards to you. So for you as an individual payroll processor, you see the number of tasks that you've got today in the donut on the top left. It's color coded into things that are scheduled or due, things that are overdue, things that are not ready because perhaps there's a task before them that needs to be done. And you can click on that donut and go and see the individual tasks. If you have approvals, and they could be internal checking steps or client approvals that are assigned to you, you'll see them in the next donut and how many you've got. And again, you can click on that donut and it will drill you through and show you what approvals are due in. And then on the right hand side, it shows you the number of tasks you've got on each day of the week in the month. We've color coded this so that you get this is my good days, bad days with low, medium and high workload days. We want to make that configurable, but at the minute it's hard coded. So you can see when you've got a lot of work coming in. And at the bottom, there's a work list. And that work list shows you the items that are overdue that you've got today. And you can just view them and see where you are in the processing for a particular customer. So these are all the steps. You can see some of them have been done. And there's an overdue one that's in your name that needs to be dealt with. Now, you could sign that off here, but it doesn't make sense that you do that. You'll do that in payroll, and I'll show you exactly how that happens. So this is your view as a logged in user. The next tab across the top is the automation tab. So if you've got any of those director only fully automated payrolls, this shows you what's failed today, what warnings you've got, how many have completed, and what are scheduled. Now, really, I'm only really interested in the failures because they're the things I've got to go back and do something about. So I can see here there's 6 things that have failed, and I need to go and understand what that is and why. So I can, if there have been failures and we haven't corrected them yet, you can click on these and it will show you that this failed. In fact, the reason this one failed in this demo site that I had was someone had actually deleted the step. But very often what this might be is that someone's left the payroll data file open and the automation routines can't access it. So basically you can go back in here and you can see you can click the rerun button and kick it back off again. So this automation tab is a pretty important one. And I'd like to think of it as your worry list. The next tab across is the sort of team overview of all your work. So you can see here individuals in the team, work assigned to them. So this would be manual processing work. So this is a bit like the BMS solution at the moment, those tasks that each member of the team have got. And you can see they're color coded to overdue, ready, not ready, completed and rejected. And I can see here that Pat here has got 8 things that are overdue. I've also got some other charts on here to see the work breakdown by day of the week. I can scroll this forward for up to 6 months to see workload by individuals. And over here, I've got the team work calendar to see what days are particularly heavy. And this is a bad week. So if I were to select this bar at the top, it drills me through to a list of those tasks that Pat has got. And I can do a multi-select on them, click this reassign button here, and it pops up with the other members of the team, and I can make somebody's day by giving them Pat's work because Pat wants to go off and hug somebody because he can, or something like that. So that reassignment bit is in here. You can bring tasks forward. There are teams, so we've built the concept of teams, and you can set up a team so that a team leader can log in and just see the work for their team in here and do the reassignment for the work across those. So you have this filtering option on here where you can filter by user, by team, and all the tasks can be right down to client level where you can see what's going on. The final tab is the client approvals tab. So this is looking at those approvals that are going off to myePayWindow. And here you can see a single view of how many are due back in on a certain day. And if there are problems, let's say a customer rejects something or says, no, I don't approve that. I didn't have it in the data here, so I've just put an image of what you get. You end up with a little warning like this, and it says the client has come back. This is what the client has typed in myePayWindow. Overtime is missing, and you can click on that, and then you can rerun the process once you've got that new information. So VPA supports bringing processing forward. It supports cancelling it, pausing it, rerunning it. All of those things that you do manually, you can do here as well. So hopefully that gives you a sort of a flavor of what it looks like. How does it look in payroll? So here's IPP as we know and love. What you end up with VPA, if you have it, is you get 2 new icons. One launches the application we've just been looking at. The one on the right opens up a task list. So you see across all of your payrolls or your work in priority order. If there's a dark box and a tick and red here, it means this is overdue, but I can do it. So I could open the bits and bobs payroll here and go and do this activity, which is pay the employees. There are other ones that are red, but they don't have a tick box, and that's because you can't do that task until you do the one before it. So you've got to do that one first, and as soon as that one's done, this one will become available to be done. So that's across all the payrolls, but when and you can see approvals as well. If I open up a client payroll, then the list just shrinks down to the work that needs to be done for this customer. And as you do the work in payroll, you can go off here and sign it off, and then it updates the dashboards for you. I would say in real time, it's not quite real time. There's about a minute gap before it updates the dashboards in VPA. So if you're a team leader and monitoring, you can see exactly the progress of the work across all of your customers. So that's probably all I wanted to show you on that. I think just to sort of loop back to where I started at the very beginning, hopefully you can see that we have made and we're continuing to make significant investments in IPP as it is right now. There is a future that we're working on. We call it New Generation Plus, and this really is about the integration of much more in-depth HR functionality coming into payroll. We have a new product called Staffology that has some immediate benefits for customers if they wanted. If you've got clients who are demanding to have a cloud payroll, then we have one. Have a look at it. We're working on it. We don't think it's quite ready yet for Bureau, but in 3 or 4 months' time it will be. But have a look at Staffology. It's got some automation in it, but we're already plugging myePayWindow to Staffology. Virtual Payroll Assistant you've just seen, we are looking to make that payroll agnostic so that in fact it could work with other of the Iris payroll technologies as well over time. So these shared technologies that you already have in the IPP solution are starting to be overlapped onto our new generation functionality as it comes out. And we're not going to force you to make a technology decision to go cloud. You can stay with what we believe is a leading bureau payroll solution in IPP and decide when you're ready, when you want to move as we evolve to that new cloud and HR solutions. So I think we've taken some questions, but I think we're heading for time.
Yeah, doing very well.
But gives us another 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so Adam Flight, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi Nigel.
Hi Adam.
Nice to see you again.
You too.
Yeah, just two things really. One sort of isn't really a question. It's a case of I know that obviously you've spent time, money, and everything else in developing VPA, but considering this comes as standard with a lot of other softwares, do you think that in the future it will come as standard with IPP, or it will always be an additional cost bolt on? I know that may not be for you, but may be for account managers. And then second question is, with Staffology looking like it's going to be a true cloud-based software solution rather than just being hosted in the cloud, will you have plans to help put together and migrate data from IPP into Staffology?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, to your first question, it comes as standard. I think some of the other cloud solutions have got automation in them. What I've not seen is the task management activity being supported in the same way. So, yeah, the automation bit is quite easy if you are in pure cloud, but to do the hybrid automation and task management bit, which we think is essential, because unless you can see both, you can't manage all your product, all your clients,
yeah.
And you're forced to have 2 different solutions. We don't want to do that to customers. We think you've got training overhead if you've got multiple payroll solutions. You just want one solution to do it. So we want to give it as an option for people. I think as it will become standard as it gets adopted more frequently across the base. But I think for the moment, customers are looking to sort of see when they're ready to take it on board.
Yeah. I mean, just for me, like you say, the fact that it stands out as something that is different from everything else and has that sort of workflow management and everything else, and the fact that bureaus are moving more and more into home-based, being based from home rather than office, that workflow management tool would become invaluable to managing teams of people sort of across the country. And just from my point of view, knowing the costs already associated with this, if you wanted to have a USP that stands out and there wasn't any additional cost, it would be a case of come to us, we do this, we automate as well as the workflow piece. And then you'd be head and shoulders above the competition, and sort of keeping existing clients happy by giving them a free sort of piece to sort of add to things to make their lives sort of easier, but at the same time, a unique selling point to attract new clients from those who are looking sort of elsewhere for other solutions.
Yeah. Well, talk to your account managers. I mean, I think, we're obviously keen to make sure people are happy. I think that, again, there's a business imperative with all of this. And, the interesting thing, I was talking to a customer, a smaller bureau, couple of 100 clients, is saving 30 hours a week with VPA as it is now. I mean, that's a massive thing. His family is seeing him. He said, this has been amazing for me. And, it really is making a difference. So it was really nice to hear that story, and he was really into the detail of the product. He'd set up template and changed them, modified the templates, and was getting that much benefit from it without us even going where we want to go with it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge amount of value with it. Coming back to the question on Staffology as a true cloud-based solution, the reason why we acquired Staffology is it is actually a collection of APIs that have been built already for payroll. And what we're looking to do is build out those APIs into our next generation payroll products. Now, we're already working on a project with EPA to allow it to consume the Staffology calculation APIs. Because they're already web built, whereas what we have to do with IPP is refactor all the calculation functionality to allow it to fly independently of the UI. Sorry if I'm sounding like I'm talking Martian to some people, but that process is happening, and we're now working on a project on VPA to decouple it from the calcs that it's using, and so that it can start to consume some of the APIs that are part of Staffology. But let's be clear, Staffology as the application will not be what it looks like when we re-engineer our next generation product. It's just got some component technology in it that will form the basis of the new UI. We're going through some envisioning workshops on UI and UX to make sure this is the user interface, the user experience of what an employee, what an employer, and what a bureau should do, so that we start to build those right foundations for the future for all of our customers. But we don't want to force that. It's not ready yet, but some of the technologies that are actually going to be part of it will start to be seen in myePayWindow and VPA, and perhaps even in IPP on the desktop, because we'll be able to consume them for the cloud. So it's almost a bit like a transplant surgery that's going on, and you'll start to see some of those benefits coming through, I hope, over the next couple of years. But it's not a decision now you need to make. I must go cloud right now, because let me tell you, probably the cloud product won't have the depth of processing functionality that you're used to with IPP on the desktop.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks, Nigel. We do have a question regarding support, but first of all, I just wanted to ask you, as the product owner, how do you pick up on the enhancement requests and the problems that come through on support to do with IPP? How does that work within Iris?
I think it needs to work a lot better, Tracy, because I think what we see, I mean, there have been a number of technology changes from support. So one of the big things that has happened this year, alongside COVID and all the fun and furlough that has gone on through that piece, as we've gone through a sort of technology change from ePayslips to myePayWindow, and in terms of the way that IPP validates information before it allows it to go to myePayWindow. So we've seen a lot of support queries come through on that, and we've been in development working on improving that validation. The difficulty has been is that there are a lot of data files with information in an inconsistent state over many years in them, and trying to correct those in one go is not straightforward, and has caused a lot of support cases. Now, the process of actually dealing with enhancement requests is that usually it gets sent through to support, and we log a ticket for that particular enhancement. Once a year, as we go through developing the roadmap, we set aside time for bug fixing and for certain enhancements that come through from a customer satisfaction perspective. And it's balancing those against the longer term strategic roadmap goals that is where I think there is a disconnect. So we need to improve that, I think. And one of my ambitions when I joined STAR was to make sure that we reserved about 15% of development capacity for customer requests, but we're not doing that.
Okay, that's fine. And I also noticed we have got a question from Tracy Simpson. I'll just come back to you, Tracy, in a moment. I also noticed on the roadmap that there was nothing to do with pensions and auto enrolment and that side of IPP. And as pensions grow and the needs of businesses change, what's the plans for auto enrolment module in the roadmap?
Nothing specifically. I mean, we've got the pension sync APIs that we consume. The AM dashboard, we'd like to improve the performance on it. We had a go at it about 18 months ago and improved it quite significantly. I think what we'd like to do is to get some constructive feedback on what's not working, how can we improve it. And I think that's where we see really the opportunity of talking with yourselves through the PBA, is that we can get a larger group of customers coming back en masse to say, this is what we'd like to do, or this is where we'd like to see some changes.
Okay, brilliant, Nigel. Yeah, we can certainly organise that. Right, I'll come to Tracy Simpson now. She's been patiently waiting.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. I'll put my camera on, sorry. I was just putting my jumper on. Apologies. Nice to see you again, Nigel. It's quite a while, I think, since we've...
I can only just hear you, Tracy. I don't know if your mic is...
Can you hear me now? If I move forward towards my...
Just about.
Yeah. I've heard along the grapevine that support is moving to the main Iris Centre in Wigan, where the other Iris softwares are being supported. Is this true?
I think there's a plan to actually allow more people within the Iris organisation to support IPP. In terms of sort of moving it to Wigan is an interesting concept, as everybody is working from wherever they are at the moment. But that's not something that I'm specifically aware of. I think the challenge we've got with IPP is the support team under Alan Coombe has a limited number of resources to it, and we'd like to increase those, and there will be cross-training with other members of the team on a wider support point of view, so that they can actually help look after our go-forward core payroll products.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a question necessarily of moving the responsibility for it from one group to another. It's more about how do we actually extend the support we provide for the IPP product.
That's great, thank you. But also, can I just mention that since our account manager left last year, I think it's probably April, May time, we have never had any contact from a new account manager. We have no idea who's looking after us, and nobody's been in touch for over 15 months now. Apart from support, obviously, when we've had issues. So I don't know whether anybody else is experiencing the same issues where we've no idea who's meant to be looking after our account. So that would be lovely. That could be rectified.
Tracy, I'll pick that up. I'm sorry to that. We've had, as I think I alluded to, numerous challenges with the sort of transition to account managers. I can't tell you how many account managers I've trained on IPP, what it is and what to do, but they've then transitioned or changed. What happened in Iris is that the sales organization underwent a major transformation, and as we've acquired different organizations, what's happened is a customer, and there may be those of you on the call who've experienced this, could have had maybe 6 different Iris account managers looking after them, which was crazy. There was one person coming in talking about this product, another come on talking about that. I think it's the right decision is to have one account manager who's able to support a customer with knowledge of all the products that Iris can bring to bear for them, and be able to actually point them in the right direction when they've got a requirement or issues. So that was the sort of motive behind the changes in the account management structure. It's been quite a problematic transition, and if you have got issues and you don't know who it is, then certainly escalate it to Alan in support. I get to see all of those, and then I'm literally chasing into the sales organization to make sure that somebody gets in contact, or an account manager is assigned at the right level to that particular customer. So Tracy, I'll pick that one up with you specifically and try and find out who should do that. But if others have the same problem, please do raise that through to support, and I'll get to follow, or come to me. Happy for you to just sort of ping me and say no one's contacted me. I have spent quite a lot of this year doing that.
Thanks very much, Nigel. I think it's a common occurrence, actually. We all seem to not seem to know who our account managers are, or haven't heard from anybody in quite a long time. So we've got another question from Steve Cox. If you want to unmute yourself, Steve.
Yeah, a bit technical, I'm muting myself, but yeah. Hi, Nigel.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, I just wanted to add my voice to that, really. That it feels like Alan is in support, plugging the dam with his finger, and I make the comment to him on a fairly regular basis about enhancement requests and kicking it into the long grass, and it appears to be very much the same thing. So I did a quick tally up yesterday, reckon I had about 17 enhancement requests in the last 15 months, none of which have been actioned, and it just feels like automation engine and such like is all very well, but the core product seems to be losing ground in terms of its functionality, and things are getting left behind, and basic payroll stuff that needs to be included. So Tracy mentioned pensions, and it feels like the pensions dashboard is exactly the same as it was 8-9 years ago, and there's no noticeable change or enhancement. So yeah, I just want to voice my sort of concerns in that area, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said before, I think we've kind of focused on what are those key things that we need to work on. And of course, what happens in a compliance product is suddenly then we focus the team on those aspects. We have increased the team. As I said, we made investment in it. So I think what we need to do is focus on those things that give the best benefit for the widest number of people and make sure that they happen. So if you can help us prioritize and understand what those are, then we'll make sure that we actually dedicate that time to it.
Yeah, I think we're all problem solvers, and rather than make Alan's life more miserable, we just get on and find ways around it. But and that just ends up being very frustrating for us at the coal face, and you end up looking at other things and other solutions.
Yeah,
I just want to kind of.
Well, I promised
management side of it doesn't help because you've got no clear path to you either try and email yourself or you badger Alan. There isn't much in between as far as I can tell.
Well, I promised I wouldn't drop water in it today, but I'm going to do that anyway. So no, I think as part of the investment, one of the things we've done is we recognized that we needed a more feet on the street person in terms of product ownership. So Warders joined me as product owner for IPP, and part of her role is to sort of tease out these things and work integrally with the development team to make sure we can start to find ways to improve the cadence of what we're doing on the desktop product, along with those new features and whiz-bang things we're working on, but to make sure we don't miss these. So hopefully Water will start to engage with people through hopefully the PBA. We can use that as the vehicle to do it, because I think what becomes difficult is doing that on an individual by individual basis. But if we can do it collectively, then I'm hoping we can improve that.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Just one last question then, Nigel, before we let you go, if that's possible, just from Alison Godwin, and then we will make a wrap of it today.
Hi, Nigel. How are you doing?
Hi, Alison.
Well,
yeah, very well. Nice to see you.
You too. Actually, going back on that last point, you kind of raised it then through PBA or something, but would Iris ever consider hosting some kind of a mutual support? Because I think it may help you as well, because a lot of queries could actually be covered by old users, or users of Star could help each other out. But rather than relying on LinkedIn or PBA, or if you physically hosted some kind of a support group for payroll users, for Iris users?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, we are looking at changing that whole support technology. There's an initiative in Iris at the moment. There's something called Quantum, where we're changing our system. So we're moving over to something called Support Cloud. which will be a new sort of service area where customers can go with knowledge base, with information, with questions, etc., etc. So that I'm hoping will improve things, because there's a huge amount of information that we have that's sort of buried in certain areas, and to get access to it, you need to do that through certain individuals. So I'm hoping that that support cloud initiative will help. In terms of running an Iris hosted group, it's something we could look at. It's just the mechanics of doing that and what's the best way to achieve it. So I'll certainly discuss that and have some thoughts with Alan and the team, and see what I can come up with.
You know, I think it'd be really helpful, actually, because I mean, we've all got a wealth of experience between us all of using the software, that it's quite nice to have that support without having to bother Alan all the time.
Yeah, you mean something like a blog or a chat or somewhere,
Yeah,
where
that's
the
exactly
users
right.
can do it. Now, I know that is something that's in scope on the support cloud. So let me have a find out what the plans are there. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, useful input. Thank you.
Okay, Nigel, I think that we've come to the end. We've had an hour and a quarter of your time. It's been very, very interesting, and really appreciated you doing this for us at the PBA. I'm sure that most people here either have IPP as their main core product or one of the suites of products, and we're desperate to know where the product was likely to head in the future, because obviously we build our bureaus around the software that we use, and it will make a huge difference to the way that we are going to roadmap our own businesses with the products that we select. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you. I don't seem to see you on the screen at the moment for some reason. Oh, there you are. I think you had to breathe to get you back on.
Oh, did I have to move? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's it. If you've got any final words or anything, Nigel, you want to send us off into our afternoons with?
Well, no, just thanks again. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to hopefully remove the elephant from the room, as I showed at the very beginning, and just explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what's coming. Thank you all for your continued use of the product and loyalty to it, because you know, we've got some fantastic customers with huge numbers of customers, and we want that to continue. So we really look forward to that continuing.
Thank you.
And as I say, Warder is there. We'll set up some sessions with you, and let's keep talking.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you everybody else for attending today. This is recorded. I will eventually turn it into a Spielberg movie, put it on the PBA channel, so you can all sit and watch back, show your teams if need be. And thank you again for attending today.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.